Good afternoon. I'm really glad to be part of today's Furniture Roundtable, which is jointly organized by the SFIC, FICCI, and of course ourselves, Enterprise Singapore. This is a very important and very timely initiative. We've been closed off from one another for 2 years now. So it's time for us to get back on track, doing business with one another. And in this particular case, really identifying those opportunities for collaboration between Singapore firms and Indian firms in the very exciting and very rapidly growing furniture sector in India. I've just taken a look at the participation. The numbers look strong, and I think that's a clear sign that we are on the right track. India's furniture market is expected to increase and grow from 18 billion USD in 2020 to 38 billion USD by 2026. That's a compounded growth of about 13%. The growth is driven by strong real estate development, no doubt because of urbanization and also rising disposable incomes. Consumer and furniture trends in India are also evolving rapidly. A rising demand for well-designed modular, multifunctional, and customized furniture. And in addition, the pandemic has also brought about a shift in purchasing patterns, with more buyers going online. And interestingly, not only in the major cities, but also in the smaller cities and towns. International furniture players are also venturing into India as part of their growth and diversification strategies. And this is no doubt adding to the vibrancy and the robust growth of the sector. I'm told that in the last few years, India has attracted prominent international brands such as IKEA, West Elm, Forte, and Natuzzi into the market. I should also mention, of course, the Government of India's push for Make in India, coupled with active interventions by ministries and states to provide more incentives to the furniture sector, have also added attractiveness to the sector. But perhaps more importantly, the government's strong support is beyond incentive packages and really a focus on building that strong infrastructure and a vibrant ecosystem to support players in the furniture industry, both local and foreign. India's first ever international furniture park in Tamil Nadu is one such example, and we will hear more about this project today from Guidance Tamil Nadu. FICCI's Furniture Committee, being a key interface between the Government of India, state governments, and industry players and stakeholders, is very well placed to provide the objective, balanced insights into the opportunities and challenges of the market in India. And I'm absolutely certain that today's sharing by its very prominent committee members will give Singapore firms a good overview of the latest developments in the industry and also what the partnership opportunities look like. SFIC, the partner on the Singapore side, is one of Singapore's leading industry trade associations. The SFIC has expertly shepherded its members through many headwinds over the past few decades, and often leading from the front. So I'm very, very confident that we have the right people around the table today to generate a robust and active discussion. So once again, I want to reiterate that our initiative that we've all come together to do is an important early step towards building the awareness and familiarity of the opportunities in India and how our firms can come together to participate in that growth. On our part, Enterprise Singapore looks forward to being a part of this very, very exciting journey together with our partners in SFIC and FICCI. So I wish everybody a very fruitful and a very engaging session ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jayakrishnan. Next, I would actually like to invite Mr. Ruda Chatterjee, who is the chair of FICCI Furniture Committee and also the chairman of OBT Private Limited. Mr. Chatterjee, please.
Thank you, Mr. So. Thank you, Mr. Jayakrishnan, for the introduction. Welcome to Mr. Fuabun Puat and to Ms. Pooja Kulkarni, who will speak on the Tamil Nadu Furniture Hub. The furniture sector has this committee which reports to SCALE, which is part of the Commerce Ministry. And I can see most of my committee members here. I see Christine and Mr. Goel and Manas. I see Madhusudan Loya. So all of us are working together as part of FICCI's Furniture Committee. Our goal is we all see the potential of furniture industry in India, both for exports out of India, which is what Christine and Manas would be especially focused on, because they represent companies or work for companies that are major customers in US and Europe. We also, as a manufacturer, me and Madhu and Anilji, we see the opportunity of creating this manufacturing industry. These are early days of furniture industry. That just to give you a background, why furniture industry is so small in India, and why we think it will not remain small. One piece of information that we should have is furniture was categorized as a small scale industry, which in India means that very limited amount of investments can be made in that industry. And this was the case till 2014. Today, it is part of the SCALE committee, which is exactly the opposite, creating large enterprises with minimum investments of, to qualify for, those of the industries that get PLI scheme, for example, production linked incentives, have minimum investments of $15 million. So it's gone from being a small scale industry to being treated as a large scale industry. That's a big shift in the mindset of the government of India. It is also a mindset shift among state governments of India. And among them, the leader is Tamil Nadu, who's done an excellent job in promoting this furniture hub in Tuticorin that you will hear about from Ms. Kulkarni. India today also is a big importer of furniture. So as a manufacturer, as a company coming from Singapore, do recognize that we import about $700 million of furniture. And that $700 million furniture is imported mainly from China, followed by other Southeast Asian countries. There are opportunities to manufacture the same product in India for both the home market. And when we look around the landscape, we see that over the last few years, we've seen new stores opened by international furniture chains in India. So in Manas works for Williams Sonoma. Williams Sonoma has West Elm stores in India, has Pottery Barn stores coming up in India. That we have, as part of our committee, IKEA, who have stores in India. And many other large players have obviously recognized India as a significant furniture market for which they're opening up stores. So there's a domestic demand, which is also growing rapidly. And that domestic demand hopefully will be met through Indian furniture companies. And there are also going to be provisions in law to encourage that. There's no restriction on importing furniture, but there will be some benefits, additional benefits for domestic manufacturing. For exports, we have seen significant growth, in the way that the total exports are going to end up close to $3 billion, which is a 67% growth in 1 year. Now that growth is, of course, because of various reasons. One key reason is, I think there is a sense that the capacity of furniture manufacturing in China and Vietnam is reaching a point where many of these companies who are buying furniture from China and Vietnam are looking for an additional source. China plus one, or China plus two, or Vietnam plus one. And India needs to be in that area. We feel that both the scale of the country, the fact that There's significant domestic demand, unlike many other countries which can manufacture furniture. And the fact that the raw materials of furniture, the number one and number two raw materials, timber and labor, it obviously limitless availability in India. Now, that is where the Furniture Committee is working very hard, which is to ensure that, for example, the policy, timber policy of India helps the furniture industry. It requires various aspects. One is, having dedicated forests for growing timber, with a policy that some part of the forest can be utilized for the timber. India can grow almost, of all the varieties of timber that are used. This is a dated study, but of around 1,000 odd varieties, 800 odd can be grown in India. So, given the various different geographies and climates of India, there are very few timbers that cannot be grown in India. We just need the right policy and the right state policy. So there are states like Kashmir that can grow one kind of timber. States like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, they're all very different in their climatic features. So today, the timber policy is something that FICCI is working very closely with Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Commerce, and the Scale Committee in ensuring that the timber policy is one that we can make sure that all the raw materials are available. Similarly, for MDF and board and particle board and plywood, all of those raw materials, how that can be available cheaper in a sustainable way, certified way, that's very important. We are working on. In terms of availability of land, furniture hubs are being created in Tamil Nadu, but also other states, which will both reduce the cost of land, but also the using developed land and having good logistics out of that furniture hub, both inward and outward. So what we have seen is various companies, and I think speakers after me can attest to it. Various companies have shown great interest, including manufacturers in other countries, to come and look at India. I would encourage all of you working out of Singapore. I think Singapore and Indian furniture industry can be excellent partners, having design capabilities, marketing capabilities out of Singapore. You have very good advantages which Indian furniture industry can collaborate with the Singapore furniture industry and work well. And I think if you can come and have a look at our furniture parks and meet us, we can do a physical meeting, come and see the manufacturing of furniture. We would be more and also advise us on any policy changes that you think are something that we are not looking at, that you would think is important for us to do. We are regularly in touch with different departments, especially as part of the Scale Committee. We have meetings regularly with the Commerce Minister, who is very keen on the furniture industry. And you may have, those of you who are familiar about Indian industry might have noticed that the Prime Minister himself actually was quoted saying that furniture industry is going to be a very big and important part of Indian industry. So all of us are very enthusiastic about the industry, and we are very delighted that you are having this roundtable to discuss it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Rudya Chatterjee. Okay, next we actually move on to the next welcome address by Mr. Phua Boon Huat, who is actually the president of Singapore Furniture Industries Council. Mr. Phua, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. A very good day to Mr. Rudya Chatterjee, Chairman, Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mr. G. Jayakrishnan, Enterprise Singapore Executive Director, Global Markets, South Asia, Middle East, and Africa. Industry leaders from India and Singapore, ladies and gentlemen. It is with my utmost pleasure to be able to virtually gather with all of you today. And as we move towards a post-pandemic environment, we look forward to more physical engagements when we can meet in person. According to a report by Business Wire, the Indian furniture market was $17.7 billion in 2020, and this will rise to $37.7 billion by the end of the year 2026. This is a double-digit compound annual growth rate of about 13.3% during the period. We see this mainly due to possibly the increase in real estate demand, higher spending power, and e-commerce penetration. Digitalization and e-commerce have also made it more accessible for consumers to purchase furniture and lifestyle products. Along with the tremendous opportunity for investment, distribution, and manufacturing, India certainly is a market full of potential. SFIC, along with Enterprise Singapore and FICCI, our local industry players are looking at how to take advantage of this and give Singapore companies an opportunity to gain entry into this highly lucrative market. It's also to my understanding that the Indian furniture sector has been identified by the government of India as one of the focus sectors for further strengthening India's competitive edge. FICCI has constituted a furniture committee with leading furniture manufacturers, exporters, and retailers in April 2020. We are very delighted to learn that this committee includes some of the country's leading and world-renowned brands, as well as the respective councils and associations. I fully encourage SFIC and Singapore companies to take advantage of this multitude of leading industry players and other stakeholders with an objective to work together with FICCI and make India a successful furniture industry for all involved. In conclusion, I look forward to an engaging session today where industry leaders from India and Singapore will not only uncover and appreciate business distinctions, but also find new opportunities of collaboration. Finally, my sincere gratitude once again to Enterprise Singapore and FICCI, all who have helped in one way or another for making this event possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Phua. All right, next we actually to move on to this special address by Ms. Pooja Kulkarni, from IAS, Managing Director and CEO of Guidance Tamil Nadu. She will actually be sharing with us the opportunities in the furniture park that was actually mentioned in the two previous addresses by Mr. Jayakrishnan and Mr. Chatterjee. So if I can actually just invite Ms. Pooja, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher. Morning to everybody, Mr. Jayakrishnan, Mr. Rudra, Mr. Fabunhat, and Christine. Very good morning to all of you, and thank you for this opportunity. We are proud to be launching the first international furniture park in India. And thank you all for hand-holding us through this process, for the support that you have given us. And we hope that this park achieves the objectives that it has set out to be. I would like to share a brief presentation on Tamil Nadu in general and the furniture park and the environment in which it is established in particular. So I'll just be loading this presentation now. Yeah, is the presentation visible?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so to start with, to give a broad overview of the state itself, we are the second largest economy in the country, although we are not the second largest state either by size or by population. We're much smaller than that. We're about 6%, but when it comes to the economy, we actually contribute 10% to the national GDP. So that's, we punch well above our weight. We are home to more than 38,000 industries, the largest SME ecosystem that you can find in the country. And that is really the backbone of our industrial prowess. More than 50% of the state is urban. So amongst all, I mean, if you leave aside small states like say a Goa or Delhi, amongst all medium and large states, we are the most urbanized. And by itself, that represents a big market for furniture. We are of course talking about the International Furniture Park as an export hub. But the way we look at it is that it presents a great opportunity to manufacture here for the national market, for the local market, because the Tamil Nadu market, the South Karnataka market, the Telangana market, South Telangana, all these are very, very mature urban markets, Kerala. So the south of India in itself is a very big market that can be reliably served from this hub. And that is an opportunity that this particular location presents itself. Connectivity we have, of course, 3 major seaports near Chennai and Tuticorin, where the furniture park is coming up. It is right beside a port. So for the kind of cargo that is manufactured in the furniture park, it's a seaport that's reliable, that's relevant. But the airports also, Tuticorin itself has a domestic airport, well connected to the international airport at Chennai. So for investors traveling to and from Tuticorin, connectivity is not an issue. The state itself, we have in an industrial park. Developing an industrial park is not new to us. We have 24 parks which have already been developed by our state PSE, SIPCOT, and the furniture park is also being developed by SIPCOT. So we have the experience and we have the success to show for it. Apart from SIPCOT, of course, there are many, many private parks also, but since it is SIPCOT which is developing this park, I would rather dwell upon the successful parks that SIPCOT has already promoted. Talent pool, whether it is in terms of skilled labor, ITIs, polytechnics, we have no dearth, and that's the case in every part of the state. So the talent pool does not concentrate in, say, just the hubs around Chennai or Coimbatore. The southern part of Tamil Nadu, which is Tuticorin, Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari, in fact, there the literacy rates are higher than the state average. So in terms of skilled labor and talent pool, we are actually in a better place overall. For the kind of skills that we are looking at, this is a great location. Water to the park, not an issue. We have already made arrangements for that. Sufficient industrial land available. And the good thing is Tuticorin is going to be part of a couple of major corridors. The Chennai Kanyakumari economic corridor that is coming up via Tuticorin, and this is going to provide very good connectivity and development along this whole corridor. Power, we are a power surplus state, 32 gigawatts of installed capacity, half of which is renewable. So that's something that we find investors are increasingly seeking. We are talking about sustainable manufacturing, and this is a unique feature that the state provides. The state itself, in terms of governance or many other parameters, we are leaders at the national level. And it speaks for the development of the state and why we are punching well above our weight. A destination of choice for a large number of Fortune 500 companies. And these are not companies who have only their offices out of here. If we count their offices also, the number is much higher. We are only counting those who are actually manufacturing out of Tamil Nadu. So that itself is a large number. Infrastructure, I already spoke about it. What also matters to investors in the furniture park is the road connectivity. So Tuticorin is very well connected by the national highway network on the Golden Quadrilateral as we know it. It's very well connected to Madurai, to Trichy, to Chennai via a national highway network. So road connectivity is absolutely not an issue. Even if you want to move cargo into the domestic markets, it is very well connected by train as well as by road. There is, of course, the seaport. Coastal shipping is very common at the Tuticorin port. A lot of the coal actually comes in through the Tuticorin port. So the eastern corridor is very well connected by the coastal shipping corridors, by the coastal shipping routes. The western also, so if you would like to move your cargo to, say, the Mumbai ports, Again, that is well connected on the coastal shipping routes. Tuticorin itself is, I mean, even well before the furniture park could come up, it is a very well-developed industrial complex. We have chemical companies there, seafood processing, ceramics, flowers, spanning different sectors. It is not, no, it is not concentrated in a particular sector. We have a lot of power generation companies also. So cutting across sectors, we have presence of industry in Tuticorin for a very long time. So the region itself is fairly well developed when it comes to industrial output. This is the park itself, the first park that is to come up. Being developed by SIPCOT, 1,150 acres, and just 13 kilometers from the Tuticorin port itself. So in terms of logistics for export, that's a lot of saving. Some of the, a snapshot of why Tuticorin is such an attractive destination for furniture. I've already mentioned some of them. There's a highly skilled workforce available. There is already a flourishing industrial ecosystem. The single window system that we offer, not just to the furniture, but to industry in general. The single window system will expedite all approvals. Social infrastructure is very good. I mentioned that no, the average literacy rate in and around the furniture park, Tuticorin, Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari, is actually much higher than the state average. The state average itself is pretty high, much higher than the national average. And in particular, Southern Tamil Nadu's social indicators are better than the state average. So we are in a good place. The whole objective at the national level itself, of course, was to create furniture parks, given the international market that's available, given the global markets and the growth that is anticipated in the global markets for furniture. And the fact that India has the potential, but hasn't really achieved it. At the national level, of course, the thinking went to develop exclusive furniture parks. And the first one, of course, is coming up at Tuticorin. The master plan is being done by Messrs. Jurong, and I don't need to introduce them to this group at least. These are the 5 key common facilities which are intended to come up at the park itself: a testing center, end-to-end testing facilities, design centers, training center, a business center, and ready-built sheds, all of which are being built into the master plan as we speak by Jurong. Something that I've already mentioned, sustainable manufacturing. We already 50% of our installed power generation is renewable. Something that is going to come up in the future, about 5 years down the line, is when we realistically expect offshore wind to actually start being commissioned off the coast of Tuticorin. The southernmost coast of the state, around Tuticorin, Kanyakumari districts. This is where the potential for offshore wind is estimated to be of the order of 30 gigawatts. And the government of India is expected to issue an invitation, expression of interest to developers to come and conduct their studies and develop offshore wind. So about 5 years down the line, we would actually have reliable, round-the-clock, sustainable energy. And this is something that is going to be powering our industry here. Water resources, the park will also have in-house treatment facilities for treating discharge from the park. And we are also planning in accommodation for labor. Although we expect that much of the labor would come from in the neighboring catchment areas. So most of them would be commuting on a daily basis into the park. However, labor that comes from a little distance away, we would be having arrangement for them to, we would be making arrangements for industrial housing at the park. Raw material, this is something critical to the industry. Sourcing the raw material, given its bulk and volume. We have enough raw material within proximity to the park. Rubber wood is available in Kanyakumari and Teni, those are neighboring districts. Eucalyptus plantations are available in plenty at Kodaikanal, Kanyakumari, Nilgiris. And the state is in fact planning to replace the eucalyptus that's available in Kodaikanal and Nilgiris with the original Shola forests. So there is a lot of eucalyptus wood that is going to be available immediately. So all those forests all those eucalyptus plantations are going to be cleared by the forest department. So there's plenty of eucalyptus wood that is going to be available immediately. We are also working with the forest department to take up eucalyptus and relevant timber wood plantations in and around the furniture park, in the districts around the furniture park. It's something that we have already done for one of our own companies, the TNPL, that's the newsprint, Tamil Nadu newsprint company. They have contracts with farmers to cultivate eucalyptus over more than 3,000 acres. That's for their paper pulp. And that's something, that's a model that we intend to replicate in the districts around the park, so that we have a reliable and consistent flow of timber into the park. Tuticorin also happens to be a port where the third highest volume of timber wood is imported. So in terms of imported wood, also the ecosystem is well established. What I just mentioned, it's the third largest port in India for wood imports. So we have enough wood coming in through the port and locally sourced also. Sawmills, this was something that an issue that was raised when the furniture park was launched. So that issue is something that we are handling separately, but otherwise also there are enough sawmills around the park, and we're seeing if we can relocate some of them into the park. Again, connectivity logistics, given the nature of the cargo, bulky, voluminous, very well connected to domestic and export markets via the seaport, road and rail. Air is, of course, I presume not for the cargo, but for the investors themselves. So, but otherwise also the park is in a very, very good location from all 3 points of view. Rail connectivity, there's for investors to travel, there's daily air connectivity to the Tuticorin port, to the Tuticorin airport. Rail connectivity is available, and road, as I mentioned, it is on the national highway corridor. So very well connected within the state through its excellent state highways network, and connected to other states via the national highway network. I also mentioned coastal shipping to access the northern markets, both to Mumbai and to the Kolkata ports. The coastal shipping routes are frequently used, so it's a well-established network. Coastal shipping, of course, is also much cheaper than the road network to access the northern markets. In terms of logistics, the time that it takes to load at the port to the factory, just a snapshot. So a lot of savings in terms of time, imports, and then discharge. The Tuticorin port itself is coming up for a major redevelopment, and this will only further improve the efficiencies at the port. The draft at the port is also being deepened for a couple of berths. So we will see larger ships coming in, and the redevelopment, I think the Tuticorin port has already floated the bid, and it is expected to be finalized shortly. So we will see a major international developer who will come in and redevelop the port. So we will see tremendous efficiencies in the loading, unloading time at the port, and that will again result in logistics and working capital savings for the investors. Skilled labor in the region, we have enough of that. In terms of skilled labor, the availability of skilled labor is again significantly higher than the India average. Tuticorin itself, because it is an industrial belt, the populace there is comfortable with working in industries. Good labor force participation rate and the working population ratio also is pretty high, much higher than the India average. So I do not foresee any concern at all with respect to availability of labor. We are also simultaneously tying up with the institutions around the park. So the industrial training institutes, the skill development centers, and the polytechnics to train, to start training people so that they are ready when the park comes in. Of course, there would be a training center at the park, but till such time as the training center actually comes up, we are making these arrangements for labor to become available even before the park actually comes up. Cost savings, significant again over other regions due to port proximity. That itself will, we estimate, will lead to about 3% savings in cost. Electricity also, the rate in Tamil Nadu is again lower than the India average. Labor costs also in Tuticorin, although an industrial region, again, with employment being available in the vicinity itself, we expect labor costs to be again lower than India averages. So there is sufficient labor available in the catchment of the furniture park. There's also daily connectivity to the Colombo port itself. So transshipment from the Tuticorin port is also something that's easily available. Over and above our industrial policy, we have gone a step further and brought out a special scheme of incentives for investors in the furniture park. And this can go up to 40% of the investment itself. The snapshot is there. If you are employing more than 2,000 people, you can actually avail a PLI, like a turnover-based subsidy, and the opportunity is there to actually touch 40% of your investments. Some of the other incentives that are there: exemption from electricity tax. There's a skilling subsidy. For a male worker, it's 4,000 rupees for 6 months. For a female worker, it's 6,000. There are incentives for green investments. Stamp duty in the park is exempt. The rate of land, the land pricing itself at the park is being offered at an upfront discount of 50% as compared to the commercial rate that is otherwise prevalent. So that itself is a significant upfront incentive that will be made available to investors in the park. For anchor investors, a structured package of incentive is also being made available. This would be structured based on discussions with the investor, but this would again be over and above the policy. So this is for large investors coming in as anchor investors. On the foundation day itself, we had MOUs with marquee names: Hetek, New Century, Decunic, OBT is Mr. Rudra's company, Marquee, Impex, all of them, Vikas Exports, Borotic, all of them coming in. And it signifies the confidence that investors have reposed into the furniture park and our ability to pull it off. We can assure you that we will not fall short in the confidence that you have reposed on us. And in partnership with all the investors, we expect to make the furniture park a success. Social infrastructure in Tuticorin, for once the park grows, we expect that senior management would also have to stay there, and something that senior management would look to in terms of availability of social infrastructure, healthcare, education, all of that is not a concern. Enough of entertainment and recreation in and around Tuticorin. It's a fairly well-developed town, so senior management need not have concerns if they actually have to reside at Tuticorin. And finally, we are here to handhold all investors right from the point that you touch base with us for the very first time, till the time that your project is grounded, and through your journey in the furniture park itself. Any issue that crops up, we are here to resolve the issue. We are here to make your investment and your journey in Tamil Nadu a smooth one. Deemed approval, something that we offer on our single window portal. Although for this industry, we don't really foresee any complications because it's really a non-polluting industry, and therefore we don't foresee any complications. However, we will expedite all the approvals. Thank you so much. Again, extending a warm welcome to all investors. And as I said, in partnership, I'm confident we can make this a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pooja Kulkarni. Okay, with the addresses out of the way, I think we are actually coming to the interesting portion of our session today, which is actually the deep dive session. I will now hand over to Ms. Christine Rai, the Patron-in-Chief of BAA Sourcing Consultants Association of India, to take us through this session. Christine, if you please, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. So I'm known for getting straight to the point, so I'm not going to beat about the bush. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and especially the teams from Singapore and from Tamil Nadu. Pooja, I was very interested to see Kottalam as a major site. I grew up in that part of the world, so I will chat to you later. I think the connections also, interestingly enough, between Singapore and Tamil Nadu, I think are quite strong historically. A lot of people of Tamilian origin based in Singapore. So I think it's really very, very interesting. And I think it's going to be great synergy. So I'm going to get straight to our roundtable session, and I will be introducing panelists and asking them a question so that we are getting straight to the point. And I would like to start with Anil Goyal, who is very well known in the furniture industry. He is the managing director of Heritage India and has been associated with Heritage for over years. And he has a lot of experience working with industry in Southeast Asia. So, we're really looking forward to having his comments and observations. Anil is also, interestingly, chairperson currently of the Furniture and Fittings Skill Council, and we have them on the panel as well. And he's been very, very instrumental in guiding the furniture industry in skilling up people. So welcome, Anil. And my first question for you is, if you could talk a little bit about your personal experience in setting up the joint venture, because I think we're looking for a lot of, industrial, investment. And so if you could talk a little bit about Heritage and India, Anil, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And good afternoon and good morning to all of the participants and the panelists. Heritage started its journey in India in 2001. And I'm happy to share with all of you that we are the largest subsidiary outside Germany, beating USA, beating China. That shows how attractive Indian industry is. We have already invested over 100 million Singapore dollar plus in the manufacturing. And we are planning to invest another 200 million plus Singapore dollar in manufacturing next 3 to 4 years time. We have already bought, which Ms. Kulkarni had explained, a large plot in a furniture park. We have already got 2 factories running in Baroda and also in Indore. And for all of you, a surprise that basically we are also exporting to China. The first company from India to export hardware to China. Now, our parent company in Germany is interested and preferring India over China for 3 reasons. One, that we have got the availability of managerial talent in the country. It's easy to communicate, easy to manage, not much of the problem. So the Europeans and all the international people, they find it much easier to interact with the manager. First, the availability, and second, the interaction. Number 2, it's a growing market. We have been in a position, we are already intending to double our turnover in next 4.5 years. And we are already the largest in the country. So you can imagine on a large base, we are talking of a growth rate of more than 20% plus. And also the third most important point is that it's easy to do business in India. We have set up factories. We are doing, I'm saying we never had any problem whatsoever, whichever state government you are interacting with. So I feel quite happy, to be honest with you. And just to give you a small, Christine, yesterday evening, I received a call from the largest furniture retailer in USA. He wants to set up the operation in India.
Who is that? Are you allowed to tell us?
I would not like to name.
Okay, I'll get you later. Thank you, Anil. So what I'm trying to do is if we can get a couple of questions for each speaker, but I'm going to go round the table first and get everybody to speak because I think that makes it more interactive. So next, I would like to ask Madhusudan Lodia. Madhu is Executive Director of Merino, one of the largest and leading brands of laminates and board in India. His current focus personally in the company is the furniture business. And I was very interested to hear that Merino has a 16-year history with Singapore in a very interesting subject of toilet cubicles. And they have been supplying and working with a company called Besco, whose founder, Jack Sim, is apparently famous for providing toilet solutions in Singapore and the world. Thank you, Madhu, for this interesting background. And Merino is currently focusing on making flat pack furniture in India and exporting to large brands like Walmart, IKEA, Home Depot, and Lowe's. So my question to Madhu is, as a manufacturer and exporter of furniture in India, what are some of the challenges that your company faces?
Sorry, I was on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, now I'm good. Thank you for the introduction. And, a lot of points which were made earlier, by Mr. Goel also resonate here. India is a growing market for sure. China +1, the real estate scenario. So the opportunity is fantastic at the moment in India, for India and India to export. The barriers, there are some, and these barriers are important to acknowledge and work on them to move forward. The quality, the cost, and the availability of raw material. I think these topics have been touched upon. We saw the wonderful presentation from Tamil Nadu, the SIPCOT and I think that is also an opportunity for India to move fast, to have such kind of hubs which bring in an integration of of the entire value chain, right from the timber side to the different near shoring of all the different kinds of raw materials to board manufacturing and to furniture in a closer area, to provide for the kind of concentrated efforts and the concentrated knowledge, information, material, all these kinds of things that are very important in this case. The second is the skill in terms of the workforce on the floor. Being a very fragmented, unorganized market primarily through a long time, and which is changing quickly. The challenge is to ensure that the skill, and I think we have members from the skill committee.
Yeah, we have Rahul Mehta here to talk about that.
Yes. So quick skilling is very important. As the companies now organize themselves to move forward. So these two things are, as I feel, are the big barriers. A composite policy from the government will help, but I think the businesses themselves, the furniture manufacturers or the board manufacturers, need to ensure that the quality, availability, and the cost of the raw material helps and of course the skill of the workforce. These are two major things that I feel.
Thank you so much, Madhu. I'm going to stop you there and go to our next panelist, Rahul Mehta, who's currently CEO of the Furniture and Fitting Skill Council. And he comes from quite an interesting background. He has worked at KPMG and in Forex trading, as well as event management. And now he is very young and dynamic CEO of the Skill Council, which is a not-for-profit government sponsored, but it's important for it to be effective to have somebody who sees the potential and works closely with industry. So Rahul, my question for you is, what do you see are the skill training needs for India if we are to grow the furniture segment, which is what everybody is looking forward to hearing about today?
Thank you, Christine. Like you, I'll also jump to the point directly. So primarily, when we look at the skills, why are the skills required in the country? It is required for two purposes primarily: export and domestic market. I'll touch base the domestic market because that's where everything is being drawn out of. Primarily, it is the raw material production or residential or kitchen led by after that hospitality, etc., etc. Now, if you will see the fabric of people who are already employed and who needs to be employed, because those are the people that we want to skill. So people who are already employed, who are existing workforce, their skills are getting outdated with the new technology, modern age machinery, tools, etc., coming into picture. So they need to be upskilled, reskilled, probably in certain cases multi-skilled also, because not everybody can pay the rates like are there in the market. And at the same time, the new ones who are there, the youth who is unaware about majorly the opportunities in this industry, they need to be trained properly on the newest technology, so they don't go through the same channel of like Mr. Madhu also mentioned, of unstructured, organic way of learning on the job. So that is where we need to focus our energy on, and the demand, which is primarily for installers, machine operators, surface finishers, upholsterers, and there's a lot of things, but these are the ones which are actually coming up. And I get a call almost on a daily basis from big manufacturers who have set up shop, but they are not able to meet the requirement because of the scaling gaps which are there, and the demand and the supply gap which is there. So yeah, that's why there is definitely a need, and we are working towards that.
Thank you, Rahul. That's really, really helpful. I'm going to move to our next panelist, Manas Arora. Manas is the director for Williams Sonoma Inc., better known for the brands of Pottery Barn and West Elm. And they have immense furniture buying capacity. But if we look, I think, at what they're buying in furniture from India, that isn't so large. So I think I'm going to ask Manav to speak about that right away. What does he see as the opportunities? Obviously, Williams Sonoma Inc. is invested here and buying here. And what are the reasons, or what needs to change to be able to buy more from India? Thank you, Manas.
Thanks, Christine. And I'll jump straight up to my answer. I think the opportunities from the furniture market from India are absolutely immense. And we as a company have over $1 billion worth of buying, and we're not even doing 10% out of India. And so that means we've really not touched the tip of the iceberg. Lately there's been a huge global landscape changing, and with the recent changes in the economic relation between trade countries, retailers have looked at India as a very equitable country where they want to invest and buy it on. So, we as a country offer a diverse range of products and raw materials, and we add that to affordable labor, competitive infrastructure, development costs. Scalability is a big factor which is happening in India, investor eagerness for growth, and huge investments coming up across all our manufacturers. So definitely that's a huge opportunity, and I see a good future. I think shortcomings I'd like to rate it actually in two portions, and as my peers currently said, primary one would be materials. We as a country are very heavily dependent on import, and a furniture product is just not made with a single piece. There's a lot of components which actually add up to it. So dependency on a lot of components, be it hardware, be it paints, be it veneer, plywood, that all adds up to a lot, and the lead times and everything just adds up to making the product more cost prohibitive, and it just makes it a challenge. The other I would, as everyone's been talking about, is a skill set. we are lacking institutions to drive true furniture development, whether be it knockdown furniture, whether be it price competitive furniture. Finishing is a big ask in furniture. So I would say, that these two shortcomings in terms of material and skill set, we have to enhance to be really be a major global player and kind of take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Manas. Appreciate that insight and forthrightness. Great to hear what it's like from the buyer's perspective. Our next panelist is Gaurav Gambhir. Gaurav has actually lived in Sweden. He worked for IKEA both in Sweden and in India, and he's now back in India heading up the buying for a Swedish company called Rusta, and they have 200 stores across Scandinavia and in Germany. I can see that he sees both sides of the coin very well, and I would like to ask him to tell us what he feels India needs to address in order to be an important destination for furniture buyers. What is the need of the hour, Gaurav? Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Good afternoon, everyone. The furniture market in India is in its very early stages of being organized. Mostly the domestic side is unorganized or import-based, and the exports growing fast, like Rudra said, 67% in the last year, but still a very small share in totality. The move from being a small player to a significant player has already started to happen. We have the Furniture Park coming up, and we have the virtue of these conferences. Just the move towards all these significant events, the movement of becoming significant has started to happen. It's important for India to think about how to create credible modern capacities, especially with a plug and play model for better utilization of capital. In this movement, what India needs to think about is the manufacturing technology, how to access that, how to access raw material. And the skills have to be skills based on technology, large scale manufacturing. And I mentioned the technology side of that as very important because the handicraft side of it already exists in India.
Thank you, Gaurav. I've told everybody we had to be very short and to the point. So I'm glad to hear somebody's listened to me. Christopher, we have one more panelist. So if you can let me know after that if we are able to talk or you want to go straight to Q&A with the floor, because everybody's prepared with a couple of questions, but we may be running out of time here. So our last panelist today is Lalitesh Mandrekar. He is heading up the new product development at one of India's largest domestic furniture manufacturers, Godrej Boyce Interior, and the brand, domestic brand is Interior. Lalitesh is an engineer by background, but he got his master's in product design at IIT Bombay. He's been with Godrej for 12 years and has quite a lot to share about the evolution of furniture buying in India, from the disorganized or small scale, which everybody has talked about in the last 5 or 6 years, and especially during the pandemic. I think we've seen things change immensely. So it really means that the supply chain is going to have to change and gear up. And that's where I think, talking to all of you in Singapore is a huge, I think there's going to be huge scope for collaboration and, generation of ideas. So Lalitesh, my question is, a little bit about compliances and quality standards. So if you'd like to talk about what India is doing to ensure adherence to quality standards in the furniture industry, because I think that's very, very important. And we'd like to hear from you on that today, please.
Yeah, thank you, Christine, for that question. As Manas and Rahul has already touched upon this, where the industry, furniture particularly, has shifted from handicraft and manual labor towards more mechanized systems of manufacturing. And that's I have seen it happening personally since early 2000, where people started getting into manufacturing with large machines, very specialized machines for furniture manufacturing. And that also combined with a lot of imports, and both from China and also from Germany coming in, US coming in. So there is a very great awareness of quality standards, international quality standards now with the customers. To keep up with this expectations, now BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, has compiled, formulated specific furniture standards which are at par with the global standards, be it EN or American standards. So what we have done is, as a part of, they had invited us as a part of industry for the formulation of this standards. Last year there are 11 standards which are already released, which is a result of about 1.5-2 years of work jointly with BIS and industry. And these standards now bring all products on performance basis. Earlier, the older standards used to be very material specific, like there would be a kind of standard for wooden chairs, there will be a standard for metal racks, and so on and so forth, which are very specific to a construction of the product or the material. But now what is being done is all the standards are performance based, irrespective of the material and the construction of the product. So that gives a complete freedom and brings all the manufacturers, be it small scale, large scale, international, national, everybody to the same platform. So it will be based on all these standards are now available on BIS website. It's easy to download those. And these would be bringing all the products to how a product, all the quality standards to how a product is used. So they are specifically stability, strength, and durability based. And that's a great advancement in terms of bringing all this synergy of the product development across. So that's a part of what is being done from BIS and industry for standardization on this.
Thank you so much, Alitesh. So I'm going to circle back to Chris now. I think we haven't really heard from him on SFIC, but what I'd like to check, should we do Q&A now, or would you like to do that at the end?
Yeah, I think it's important for the bosses to actually get to know a little bit more about the environment and the landscape. And if there's actually time permitting, we would love to actually share a little bit about what SFIC is all about. So let's dive right into the Q&A, and then we will actually see how we can actually weave ourselves into the rest of the session.
Okay, so some of the questions have been answered. I see 3 of them already answered. There are 2 open. Dr. Pandey, he's asking about seasoning being the prerequisite for manufacturing quality furniture, obviously hard, solid wood. Unfortunately, there is a lack of trained manpower. Do I have anybody on my panel who wants to talk about furniture wood seasoning in India? Anybody want to take that question? I mean, I can talk a little bit about it. There is extensive seasoning, especially in the areas of Rajasthan, where currently the solid wood furniture is made. And I think it's up to you to do due diligence. I know there are good seasoning plants, and then there are not so good seasoning plants. And along with the seasoning, there is of course, the chemical treatment of the wood. I think India's lack is in technology there. I believe that we are not, always using the highest pressure, so therefore the penetration of the chemicals is not so good. I hope that answers your question, but I'm happy to, I'll put my email in the chat, and then if anybody would like to reach out later, I'm happy to guide you. I'll ask my technical team to give you that guidance. Next question here we have is, how will the Indian furniture industry be able to keep with Italian furniture standards, catering to the luxury market? Are there enough skill sets in India to make this a viable option? Does anybody on the panel want to take that question? How is India going to compete with
I can
Italy?
take this question.
Please.
You see, basically, there are three elements to the furniture making. One is the design, one in the raw material and components, and third is the processing. I believe that design is an element which is, I'm saying, not a country specific, but Italians are known for designing. Whatever is required for manufacturing the nicest piece of furniture today are available in the country. So whatever is available worldwide is available in the country. So availability of raw material or the components is no longer an issue. Processing, yes, we have to be mentally prepared to prepare the right, to produce right quality. So these three things are, but India is well equipped to today supply the, or to meet any global, I would say, quality standard.
Manas, you wanted to add something?
No, sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay, so we have another question from Dr. Pandey. Perhaps Dr. Pandey, can I ask, maybe you could speak to Lalitesh offline. This is BS standards are known, but there are many Indian industries that are known as BIS manufacturers. Maybe BIS, but how many Indian industries are using or known as BIS manufacturers? I think that's a question maybe for BIS, Dr. Pandey. They might be able to tell you who is, who is using the standards. So I think we'll pass on that one. Saurabh Mangla, what are the differences in manufacturing for local market versus manufacturing for export to overseas market? Would any of the panelists like to take that question? So the difference in manufacturing for the Indian market versus exporting.
I can take that since we are doing both. So one is, and I'm sure the others can add to it. One is the standards. So the compliance standards required either to process it or the standards of certain raw material. That is at the moment in India, it is still to evolve to the potential, to be globally competent on the topic. But that is one of the primary scenarios. That is the basic difference, and that of course leads to points in terms of the cost, therefore, and so on.
Thank you, Madhu. I hope that answers the question. We have another question from Joshua Koh. From a retail standpoint, what are the various models available when considering for retail presence in India? So this is a question for setting up retail in India for the mid to high-end furniture market. Is there a preferred model among overseas countries wanting to enter the market? Does anybody know enough about the retail market? Would like to talk to that one?
I can take that question.
Thanks, Anil.
Now, you see, there are two types of models which are prevalent in India. One, the high-end furniture retailer who are opening up their own showroom, and they have got very select few franchisees. Second model is basically where people are opening, I would say, too many stores, but they could be owned by the, or rented, the premises could be rented, but run by the company or the seller. And number two could be the franchisee model, where the product offering is by the company, but the investment is being made by different people who want to run the showroom. So there are two different models, completely different models, company owned and franchisee owned. Is your question answered, or you want to further details?
Joshua, does that answer your question? I think he can type, but Madhusudan is also typing. We have I think the participants can't speak live, Anil. So Joshua, if you could just write in the Q&A if you have any more questions, or in the chat. We have two more questions. Chris, do we have time for those? Okay, one that's been answered. This is a local question. We need national sources of CARB Phase 3 certified panels and board. Lack of this certification means exporters are forced to import panels. Similarly for PEFC and FC certified wood. Sonal, I'm going to ask if you could maybe we can get back to you on that one. I think there are a lot. I think there are a lot of answers. Maybe Madhu from Merino can also help with that. I'll put a few numbers in the chat so that you can speak to them. I have a question from an anonymous attendee. What are the channels foreign furniture designers can enter India furniture market? What the market looking for in design? What kind of furniture design is suitable for the local market? I think that's a very, very all-encompassing question. And I'm going to ask that we can perhaps, if you can email that in to the Furniture Committee, and Amrita will forward it to one of us to answer you. We have one more question. Environmental protection requirements for exporting to Europe and other countries are producing product packaging specific. What is India doing to meet such specs? Again, Pulin, that's a very big question. I think each factory is aware of what the requirements are. All the export factories are following the packaging norms mandated by their customers. In case of CARB certified plywood, some of it's available locally. In other cases, they are importing it. So again, if you could send a note to the Furniture Committee at FICCI, and we will try to get you answers there, I think. I think I've covered all. Chris, I think I have covered all there, and we can take it forward if you would like to. If you would like to tell us a little bit about SFIC, I think it's very important. All I know is that you have been having the fabulous furniture, Singapore Furniture Show, which unfortunately has not happened for a couple of years, but I was pleased to see that it is going to be happening again in 2023. So perhaps we can have a get together in Singapore in March. Is it March or April? March.
Yeah, usually it's actually held in March. That actually falls into the same program or the same space as the rest of the region exhibitions as well. So then buyers can actually do like a tour of duty during that period of time.
Great.
But we look forward to actually bringing them back, but it's actually still very much in discussions at this point in time. All right.
Great. Look forward to hearing more about that. So I'm going to turn over the floor to you, Christopher.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, in view of the time itself, I'll just do a very, very quick summary of what SFIC is all about, and just to give an idea, and flavor of what we do as an association in this case here. So if you could just, okay, here we go. I take it everyone can see my screen?
Yes, thank you. We can see it.
Thank you. All right. So the association itself is over 40 years young, all right. And when we started, we actually were concentrating more on assisting furniture manufacturers in Singapore then to actually expand their businesses throughout the world and beyond. So, but since then, we've actually become so diversified that we had to actually kind of break down our members into 5 very diverse clusters that actually house all our 360 members within these 5 clusters, which I'll go through very in a short while. Also, just as important, we are also in alliance with many other like-minded TACs, not only in Singapore, but also around the region, as you can see here. In fact, Singapore is actually helming the ASEAN Furniture Industries Council, which consists of 8 other member countries within Southeast Asia itself for the next 2 years. So that's also something that we are hoping to actually bring some vibrancy back to the region in terms of what the Southeast Asia countries can provide to the world. And of course, just as important is also our alliances with government and national agencies, especially with Enterprise Singapore itself. So this is a shout out to them, especially for that, because they've actually been a very big help in terms of supporting our members and companies, in terms of expanding and internationalizing their business throughout the world. As you can see here, this is actually the 5 very distinctive clusters that our industry is actually broken up into. Of course, the first would actually be our mainstay, which is the manufacturing. Understanding that manufacturing in today's context here in Singapore is very expensive. Most of our organizations have their headquarters located here in Singapore, but their manufacturing capabilities will be actually in and around the region in Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and even China. Next, we have our contract manufacturing cluster. This would actually be our fit-out specialist, whereby they look at hospitality, they look at hospital, residential, commercial projects, turnkey projects that they actually would fall under. Next, of course, we would have our retail. All right. These are also, again, not just local retailers, but they also have presence in and around the region and even on a global scale as well. Next, we come to the design cluster. These are not just furniture designers themselves. They are also multidisciplinary designers that actually goes into interior design, architecture, etc. So again, it covers very much the whole ecosystem in this case here. And then last but not least, but just as important, would actually be our members from the materials, components, and services cluster. So these are anything and everything that has to actually do to actually build, to actually do up the built environment in terms of your carpeting, your electrical, your fabrics, etc. And you can see that this is actually a growing number of our member clusters. The vision statement for the council in terms of actually driving the industry forward is actually to become the nexus of tomorrow's work-life integration. Understanding the fact that COVID has actually brought a new normal to our work-life, work-life kind of schedule. So what we're also looking at in terms of actually helping the industry to move forward is to actually address this for our consumers and our clientele. But just as important is also to actually look at the sustainable urban living, understanding that like for India, a lot of the younger generations are actually moving into the cities itself. And that's also something that we as an industry would want to address and how to actually make it sustainable at the same time. And how we go about doing this is actually to three very, very important pillars of market agility, being able to pivot at the very, very slightest of notice in order to actually address market forces. Urbanite centricity, again, like we mentioned, able to actually address urban solutions to actually make sure that the younger generation or the next generation or even the silver generation is able to actually live with comfort in mind. And then last but not least is enterprise adaptness. So this is actually how we want to actually help companies and our members to actually be masters in their own respective businesses for that matter. And how we actually go about doing this, cutting right across, would be the use of Hive synergy, sustainability, and omni-intelligence. Breaking down into more micro or activities and programs that how we're going to actually go about doing that over the next couple of years would be these important initiatives and programs that we'll be introducing. So understanding internationalization is a very important aspect in our business today. We would actually definitely look at how we can actually resume physical activities like mission trips, hopefully to India very soon, and even exhibitions for that matter. Business innovation, this would be most likely like having co-solutions and collaborative efforts with other like-minded industry or sectors that would actually come up with new ideas. Design development is also a very important aspect in the council's activities itself, whereby we not only help in terms of designing the end products, but also putting design as a driver in business capabilities within the companies and how design is actually used to help companies propel themselves forward. And then next is, of course, human and enterprise capital development, understanding that there is actually a global shortage of human resources due to closure of markets and economies. We definitely are looking at this to see how we can work with government agencies and also like-minded organizations to help drive to solve this issue. And then next, we also look at the next generation of leaders, whereby we actually have this young group of young entrepreneurs or even second or third generation of furniture owners coming forward to actually bring the furniture industry forward. And I think that's where this kind of events and sessions would actually be able to help these young leaders to further understand how and where they can actually stand on the global market itself. And then last but not least, I think on everyone's lips nowadays is actually sustainability. And that's something that, again, we've actually done sustainability blueprint that would actually take us within the next 2 years to drive and actually help again our members to actually jump onto that sustainability bandwagon in order for them to actually be in line with the UN global kind of objectives in terms of being more sustainable on a global scale. So I think basically that is actually SFIC in a nutshell. But if you actually have more information, we'll be more than happy to actually speak to anyone. All right. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I'm sorry you had to race through that, but that was fantastic. If you could share that presentation with the FICCI team, and then they will get it to all of us. That was brilliant. I think we are probably running out of time. I'm not sure whether we were allowed to carry on until 12:30. Somebody could let me know. We're supposed to end at 12:15. So I'm probably going to ask Amita Mehta to give the vote of thanks. But I think I love the idea. You said that you're going to bring some delegations over. I think that would be fantastic. And as I said, I'm personally going to put Singapore on my calendar for next March and come to that furniture show. I've been thinking about it for many years and always ended up with something else to do in India. But now that we know so many people, I think a lot of us will get over there. And I will also make sure that our association promotes that with our other members. So that would be really interesting, from a sourcing perspective as well. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Amrita. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm going to ask Amita Mehta to give the vote of thanks. And I don't know if there's anything else that anybody else wants to say before we close.
Just a quick word from FICCI, Christine, before Amita Mehta just gives a formal vote of thanks. Yeah. So I would just like to also formally thank SFIC and Enterprise Singapore and all my committee members and the panelists. And we would like to invite SFIC to come to India. We'd be very happy to organize a meeting either in Tamil Nadu or Delhi or in both places. So we will be in touch with you all with, for the further updates. Thank you.
From SFIC.
Amita, I think you're muted. Yes, carry on, Mr.
Bunhua from SFIC. Thank you very much to FIPA and ESG for organizing this roundtable. I think it allows the participants to take back a lot of knowledge as well. And then if they want to know more and perhaps make a visit to India, I think we'll be happy to connect some of the member companies to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amita, over to you.
Amita, we can't hear you. Still no sound. You're still not audible.
I guess, sir, audio is not working. So I don't know what can be done. Your audio is not working, Amita.
Just.
So, Moushumi, should you, who has the vote of thanks?
Yes. Yes. So just a second. I'll just give you.
Well, we have some time. If anybody would like to speak, we're not going to waste this time. If anybody felt that they had something to add or anything spurred by the questions, go ahead until we get our vote of thanks speaker up.
Christine, probably I want to chip in on the opportunity for SFIC and FFSC to work towards skill development. So, we'll be looking forward to any such collaborations, starting from understanding the demand of the skilled workforce to the kind of competency levels which are required, whether it is setting a shop in India or promoting the skill development part in India, because there are a lot of opportunities now available, and even government is very forthcoming on the same front. So I'd like to take this, extended time for that. Thank you so much.
And I actually think you have a good opportunity. The Tuticorin, that furniture park, they are looking actively for some skill training. So that might be something you could jump on, right away, because it sounds like they're very progressive. And I don't know if you have experience in working in Tamil Nadu, but it is a very organized state. I will say that from my own experience of working in textiles in the region. So it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure to work in that state. I think Moshimi is going to try and do Amita's not able to. She has no
if you'd like to just end and give some. No, she's got a problem. So I think we will end the the virtual roundtable.
We've lost Rudra, so I think you're going to have to speak.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining in. So we will share the presentation which has been shared by the Tamil Nadu government with SFIC, and whatever, if you have any question or any, if you'd like to reach out, just send a mail to the Furniture Committee. Amrita, can you just put the Furniture Committee mail ID on the chat box, please, for the participants, and we'll be happy to help you any way we can. And we look forward to joining hands with ESG and with the furniture and with SFIC for a physical roundtable and more physical events. And Christine, thank you for the wonderful moderation, and thank you panelists. And we hope to do more events like this.
Big thank you to the panelists and to everybody from Singapore. Thank you very much, everyone. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.